Ahoy, and welcome back to Building the Alpha Dory, a project to build a 1890s era racing dory for beach cruising, river rowing, and local use along the coast of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Today we're hoping to get some more work done on the frames, the half-lap joints, and maybe even get some nails and glue into them. We'll see if we get that far. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, and let's get out into the shop. Alright, so yeah, what we're doing is just keeping on with these half flaps. I suppose one thing we could discuss while we're just don't need my earplugs in anymore. One thing we could discuss while we're just working away is what are the best ways to use these old traditional working and pleasure craft that were developed as originally working boats, but became popular with racing folk around the turn of the century when they were looking for fast boats to hit against one another. This was just before the advent of pleasure power boats. So you still had to go fast guys who were looking to had a little bit of testosterone running or whatever, and were looking to race each other, go faster than the next guy. They were still in sailboats because there were no motorboats, unless you were really rich, wealthy landowner or yachtsman or something who could afford a steam-powered launch or some sort of speedy steamboat. The sort of rabble was still relegated to sailboats as late as, say, 1905 or whatever, around here anyway. And yeah, so you had these guys who were out there zooming around the harbor on weekends, just racing and seeing if they could pass some of the schooners and zoom past some of the more well-to-do yachtsmen in their pleasure craft. So, but the great thing is, where these were working dories, they're still useful for something, as far as carrying a good load, whether it's fish or people and gear to the beach. Doesn't really matter too much, it's a very similar process. Yeah, these are cleaning up real nice. Look at that. Got a nice joint there. So yeah, but one of the great things to do in these boats is if you head down river Friday afternoon or whatever, with the, launch the thing, head on down river, and if you can make it down near Plum Island, on the inside, of course, before the sun goes down, get your either your boom tent set up or sleep aboard, or if you go to below decks and a small cabin, you can always hunker down in that. But just get down there and in time for dinner. Hear the train to Boston on its way in, way out from Boston, and just hunker down there for the night. Then when you wake up, you're pretty much serenaded by seabirds and hear the waves breaking on the ocean side of the island, and the piping plovers and other seabirds along the shore. They're really, you know how land birds are talkative in the morning, while seabirds are just as active. They make quite a racket, but it's fun to hear. And then that way you're down to the beach before the hordes of beachgoers arrive, so you've got a place to lay your blanket and stake out a good spot in the anchorage. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun if you do it right. And of course you got to keep your eye on the weather and all. If it was getting really bad, you could always just cut across to Ipswich and pull up near Great Neck there, Pavilion Beach. Get out of the weather. But it's not too exposed on the far side of Plum Island anyway. So as long as you don't get hit by some sort of a crazy thunder thumper or something, you're usually pretty good. I actually pulled into the Ipswich River a couple of years back to wait out one of these supercell gust fronts that blew through. Of course, I was in the river headed for the downtown area, and I guess we've all heard about the calm before the storm. Well, of course, I got my sails up. The wind dropped off to just about nothing. Big piles of black clouds started rolling in off of over Plum Island and Great Neck and Castle Hill and all. The next thing I knew, there were bolts of lightning all around, and the wind was whipping. Went from maybe 2 to 5 miles an hour up to 25 to 30 within probably 8 minutes or so. And of course, with the wind came the rain also. And at that point, that's when I just I was up to the tree line, along the marshes there, and I just nosed to the bow up into a little creek, went below decks, and hung out for the duration of the storm. And then, as it turned out, the next day I ended up heading offshore towards the Isle of Shoals. Made it out there by, I think it was Sunday, because I spent Sunday night up in Ipswich after after the storm passed, I just rode the tide up into the center there and ended up hiking over to a Choke Ridge pub for a little burger and drink at the the eatery there, and then hiked back to my boat. Spent the night up in the Ipswich River aboard my boat, and then early the next morning, that was it. With the turn of the tide, I headed straight for Isle of Shoals. Ended up spending a week out there, so that was enjoyable as well. Actually, some of that is some of the footage from that trip ended up on my YouTube channel, so if you feel like it, maybe go back. It would have been sometime 2019, I believe. Summer of 2019, maybe June. No, it was July. That might have been June still, because I was out on the shoals for July 4th. So it could have been late June. I was having trouble getting into that corner, and then I realized I'd clamped this in into the vise below the level of the surface I'm trying to plane, so the vise was holding the sole of the plane up off the wood, the workpiece. Probably talking too much, that's why I wasn't paying attention. Okay, I'm going to mix things up a little bit here, switch things up a little bit, take a bit of a break from cleaning up the half flaps, and maybe we'll glue up a couple of these frames just so we can get on to riveting them next time we're out in the shop here. So get a good amount of glue on the surface there. Spread it all around. Getting some glue in the end grain on the oak. Get some glue on this end grain here. Don't like to waste glue if I can help it. Get everything good and wet though. You want a good clean bond, clean joint. There we go. Get some squeeze out going on. Now I'll grab a hammer and make sure that everything's tapped together tight. Yeah, some squeeze out there too. Looks like a good joint. This water-based glue is really great stuff. This Bond 3. It's not cheap, but it's significantly less expensive than epoxies, and yeah, good stuff. Yeah, looks good. Alright, so we'll set this aside to dry, and once this is dry, then we'll glue the other frame arm on. Just do them one at a time, that way it's easier on the glue up. I think what I'll do is I'll set this under the boat so it's out of the way. And then we can do another one. Yeah, when these joints are locked together, they almost hold on their own. See that? And it's so it's a pretty strong mechanical joint. And then on top of that, you've got the added influence of the glue just really holding everything together. And then over and above that, you're going to have the rivets that we'll put in as well, just to kind of make sure that things stay where we put them. A kind of good old-fashioned belt and suspenders approach. Getting the glue on that end grain. It's going to be sealed in there. This is a little bit longer joint, so maybe grab 2 clamps for this one. Nice tight joint there. Some glue squeeze out. I'm going to make sure I don't glue this gotta make sure I don't glue the clamp to the wood is the only thing. Put a little keep it from sticking. There we go. Should do it. Nice. Alright, yeah, that glue's squeezing out of there now. Looks good. Alright, great. Well, that's another frame clamped up and getting closer to being ready to nail onto the boat. Thanks for stopping by for building the Alpha Dory. If you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Next video, we're hoping to get the rest of those frame laps cleaned up and glue up some more of the frames, and maybe even rivet a few of the ones if they're dried. Anyway, thanks a lot for stopping by, and we'll catch you next video. See ya.